Good morning, everybody. Welcome. Anybody here for the first time? A couple. Great. Good. Welcome. So let's start with refuge prayer, and it's in our books. Well, actually, we can use the sheets here. It's the refuge prayer. Nice to see so many of you here on this cold morning. I think it's up to a sizzling 28, so thank you for coming in. So we'll say this in English, and we'll say it 3 times. In the Buddha, the Dharma, and the assembly most excellent, I take refuge until I reach enlightenment. By the merit of generosity and other good deeds, may I achieve enlightenment for the sake of all beings. In the Buddha, the Dharma, and the assembly most excellent, I take refuge until I reach enlightenment. By the merit of generosity and other good deeds, may I achieve enlightenment for the sake of all beings. In the Buddha, the Dharma, and the assembly most excellent, I take refuge until I reach enlightenment. By the merit of generosity and other good deeds, may I achieve enlightenment for the sake of all beings. So let's just take a moment to relax. I don't know about you, but getting up this morning and getting everything ready and coming here, it's a bit of a hassle. So to get in tune with Dharma, why don't we just take a moment to relax? Don't have to meditate, just relax your mind and your body for just a moment. Maybe take a couple of deep breaths. Thank you. So my name is Lama Tom Broadwater. I've been coming here to the center for more than 20 years. It's always nice to see folks filling up the center here. You might have expected Lama Kathy to be here this morning, but she called me Friday night. She's recovering from some dental surgery. She's doing fine, but she felt, and the doctor felt, it would be good for her to rest. I'm sure she'll be back next Sunday. And so because I was called in fairly short notice, and because it takes me an awfully long time to get a talk together, the talk this morning is going to be relatively short. At least the number of words I say aren't that many. But since I speak so slowly, maybe it will take longer. But at the end of this, by the way, the talk will be about, since we're just 2 more weeks before the beginning of the next year, we're next to the last Sunday before the end of the year, I thought it'd be really nice to reflect on how the center has progressed, what they've done in the past year, look at the achievements of what the people here at this center have done. And also, it's a good time for us to reflect on our own progress and what we've done and what we would like to do in the coming year. So at the end of this, hopefully relatively short talk, I would like to entertain questions or reflections on your part, questions that you can answer, such as, what would you like to see the center be doing a year from now? What would you personally like to be doing a year from now in terms of your spiritual progress? And maybe if you need to, if you want to, talk about any obstacles you find in the way of your spiritual progress that you've experienced in the past year, or the successes you've experienced. So I really invite you all to think in this way so that at the end of the talk, we can have a conversation together, and there'll be microphones on either side for us to speak. So again, the talk is, what I'm going to basically be doing is talk to you about what the center's done in the past year, what we can look forward to in the coming year at this center, to look at our spiritual goals and the progress we've made this year. And at the end, I'm going to make a wish for us all. So I went back and I looked through all the things the people at this center have done in the past year, and it's been amazing. It's truly been amazing. And I'm going to go through a litany of things that have been going on here at this center in the past year. First of all, as you know, there's been Dharma talks every week at this time. And that's thanks to Lama Kathy, to Eric Weinberg, to Kathy Lama Jackson, to Marcus Casey. They all have pitched in and given talks. And since Lama Kathy doesn't tell us precisely what we should be talking about each week, there is a multitude of topics we covered. And I just will give you a few of them. We talked about mind training. We talked about, Lama Kathy one time gave a talk on Jesus and Buddha. Another topic was how to be generous in a world of greed, finding balance in our daily life, how to maintain sanity in a world gone wild. We talked about the Mahamudra prayer, the two bodhicittas. By the way, all of these can be found on our website, podcasts, or you can go to Facebook and scroll through these and find, and they're entitled so you know what you're going to be hearing when you listen to the talks. As you know, we've also had weekly introduction to Buddhism and introduction to meditation. That's going on every week, and literally scores, if not hundreds of people have enjoyed those talks. And that's the result of people like Paul, Connie, Kashmira, Justin, Kim, Kevin, and Marilyn. And I may be forgetting somebody here. And one of the really neat things is during this year, they revised this, the curriculum. And it's really well thought out, very intelligent. And you can actually go to our website and see the outlines for those talks. They're really, really good. In fact, they are so good, many Buddhist centers, Kagyu Buddhist centers across the country are adopting that curriculum. So I want to thank all those that were involved in that. We have AA meetings here weekly, and Chuck is sort of the champion of that group. We have a women's group going with a book study. We have regularly scheduled pujas of Tara, Chenrezig, Karma Pachi, Mahakala, Chud, and Medicine Buddha. I mean, that's a pretty full schedule. You will not find that other than at a monastery. We also have a Nundro study group. We have a monthly kids group, and we have quarterly shamatha retreats. This goes on every month. And the amazing thing is it is all done by volunteers. No, Lama Kathy gets a small stipend, and I call it a stipend because it in no way reimburses her for all the effort and all the time she spends. But everybody else here is doing it without compensation. Now, there were special events last year too. Yang and Joshua Hamilton, who hosts the Dharma shop downstairs, talked about a trip to Taiwan and their visits to different temples there. We had a Saturday program on Milarepa, his songs of awakening. We had different programs teaching us how to perform pujas. Lama Kathy Jackson does those frequently, does those teachings. We had a nine, I should call it, which is a fasting and compassion meditation retreat. We did that once. I'd like to do it again. It is somewhat difficult to do, requiring a lot of preparation, and there is some fasting involved in it. But I would really like to see that happen again. We also made malas here. There is a program on making malas. We did some mantra rolling. I won't go into any detail here, but it was tedious work of rolling mantras into little cylinders, you might say. And those are all going to be put into statues that we are eventually going to bring here to the center. They're downstairs right now, waiting for the shrine to be completed here. We also celebrated the Buddha's holidays, such as Chukorduchen, Sakadawa, and others, Labab Duchen. We also did a solar eclipse practice day. And then Lama Kathy and Dr. Brzezinski from West Virginia University did a program on mindfulness and brain science at COSI. We had some special events too. We did the ComFest. We had a reception for our latest monastic, Caitlin Seiki Buchanan. We had a clothing drive, and we had a Good Dharma bluegrass fundraiser. Then we hosted Khenpo Urgent, who taught on the Two Truths. We had Lama Yeshe coming, talking about spiritual healing. Lama Lodro Lamo came and taught on Tara. And Lama Karma came for a very special visit here too. So, I mean, that's just, I'm not telling you everything that has been going on here, but that gives you some idea of what was the activity here. And again, all done by volunteers. During this year, we also were gifted, two friends of the center gave us this 1,000-armed Chenrezig, beautiful statue there. We also received through gifts the Amitabha statue. I'm sure I'm missing some events and people that have done really wonderful work here, and I apologize for that. But again, this has been a hub of activity, and it's been led by the relentless effort of Lama Kathy, the board, and a cadre of devoted volunteers, unpaid again, as I say. So let's talk about a little bit about what we can anticipate for the future. We're going to complete the shrine structure. I think they have, basically, I think they've decided on the person who's going to build the new shrine. And on top of those, that shrine will be the statues that are housed downstairs. The statues of Tara, Chinrezig, and Vajradhara. And then there's going to be a big ceremony where we crown the building, the top of the building, with what is called a sertok, which is, in most cases, a copper turret that's gilded in gold. And in many, you'll find in many religious, and you will find a lot of precious objects, religious objects that are put in this sertok that will go on top of the building. Just so you understand this, the importance of it, in many biographies of religious Buddhist rulers and religious figures, the installation of the sertok on temples are listed among their greatest achievements. So it's sort of that idea. This sertok will crown our center and mark the building on Columbus landscape as a site of important religious activity. Sort of hoping this happens this year. Light goes into that. And as I said before, my personal hope, I have a hope here too, that our Buddhist meditation master, Khenpo Karma Tenkyan, will come to Columbus and conduct a 3-day nyune. Basically, this is a fasting retreat of 3 days, partial fasting. It's not all 3 days that you don't eat, but part of that time you don't. And it's basically devoted to compassion, developing compassion for all beings. I would love for that to happen. It's a beautiful service, and almost anyone can come to it and gain benefit from doing it. I've also talked to Lama Kathy. This is a hope I have, that we could actually begin a men's group here to basically focus on neighborhood service. We have a women's group, and it'd be nice to have a men's group to do similar work. But we'll see. And that requires, of course, a lot of planning and thinking, and the board has to approve that. So, we've had a very productive year here. Thanks so many people. One of the persons that we shouldn't forget is person there in the back, Don Fortner, who is here every week, making sure our camera and YouTube and all that is set up and in proper order. So, Don, we thank you also for all the volunteer work you do. I fear that I'm leaving many people out, including some means I'm leaving out others, but You get the idea. So the question we should ask ourselves is, what does all this spiritual activity tell us? More importantly, perhaps, is what is the center and the center leadership? What are they inviting us to do? So here's what I think. I think the board leadership and all the volunteers of this center are inviting us to a deeper, more spiritual journey besides simply listening to edifying Sunday talks or a comfortable sit. Those are all good. Those are all very good. And they are of immeasurable value. But I think we are being invited to an even deeper experience. The people at this center are telling us that the practice of Buddhism goes beyond a comfortable lifestyle based upon some alternative version of the Golden Rule. Again, the Golden Rule is concordant with Buddhist practice, but I think the Buddhist practice goes far deeper, and we're being invited to that deeper meaning of religious practice. Specifically, I think we're being invited to an authentic Tibetan Buddhist practice. We're being invited to submit to the practice discipline. And that's hard. And it's hard for a lot of reasons. Sometimes those traditions are difficult to understand. Some of the times we use the Tibetan language, so it's difficult for us. So, because of the difficulty, that's why we need teachers like Lama Kathy to help explain to us that tradition. She's an authentic teacher. Her teacher was Khenpo Karta Rinpoche. He was infallible in his transmission of that tradition to her. So we need teachers like Lama Kathy. We need teachers like the Khenpos and Lamas from our monastery to come and teach. And another thing we have to recognize is that our tradition does have elements of cultural overlay. But as the saying goes, we don't throw out the baby with the bathwater. We are careful in what we emphasize or de-emphasize. We have to be careful about that, because sometimes something that we think is so unimportant, when a teacher comes and tells us what it's all about, oh my gosh, yes, we should be doing that. So with this analogy of baby in the bathwater, the baby in this instance is the living, written, and oral transmission of the truth, its experience and its realization that has passed from teacher to student, going back to the Buddha. So we have to be careful about how that's transmitted. But I think what the center is inviting us to do is to align ourselves to that wisdom and truth tradition. And as we align ourselves with that tradition, we become a part of it, and thereby we can make our own unique and important contributions to that tradition. But you have to be careful. I mean, you can't add to something you've not first of all learned about and understood and practiced. And until you do, you don't have a lot to contribute. And it's only after you've learned that, yes, you do can, and that there will one day be an authentic tradition that we can call American, United States, North American, or South American. And I think the dynamism of this center is pointing us in that direction. Sometimes we'll meet obstacles in these practices. So you and I need curiosity and a mind that's questioning. And also a mind that's humble, knowing that we don't know it all. That's the only way we're going to learn not to fear asking and questioning. The Buddha said as much, didn't he? Don't take what I say without questioning. So far we've sort of stressed the accomplishments and the hopes for the center. Let's talk about ourselves. How do we progress? And how do we achieve greater freedom, ultimate liberation? And I'll simplify the answer to that question by saying we progress by listening to the teachings, rolling them over in our minds. I mean, listening is not enough. We gotta think about them. Go home and think about them. And then meditating on them, allowing the teachings to become a part of our lives. So the basis of what we are practicing and what we are being taught here, the basis of it all is meditation. It's what we do here. It's our specialty. It's the tool we use in all of our practice. It's the first thing every beginner is taught here. So in the coming year, we can grow spiritually through a regular practice of meditation. Meditation is the heart of Dharma. But the way we think of meditation is not necessarily the way it actually is. So to explain that, we begin with what the Buddha taught. He taught the most basic teaching he said was, avoid any harm to everyone, including ourselves. He said, practice virtue in every way you can. And then he said, train your mind. And he said, that's his teaching. So we begin there to understand what meditation is all about. I think it's logical to say to do good and to avoid harm consistently requires us to train our minds. I mean, we all do some good sometimes, but to do it consistently, regularly, habitually, it requires training our minds. So to train our minds, we meditate. In Tibetan, meditation the word is gom. Gom. Gom means familiarity. So meditation, what I suggest is the way we're going to make progress. Meditation is all about becoming familiar with your mind. And that's not easy because our minds are not something tangible we can touch. The fact is, nobody knows your mind but you. You may live with somebody, and I've lived with my wife for about 45 years. She doesn't know everything about me. And you could probably say this about your partners or your spouse or your friends. You may be with them, but they don't know your mind altogether either. Only you, and you don't know your mind that much or that well. You are not that familiar with your own mind. And it's only through meditation we're going to learn about our mind. And why is it that we don't know what our mind's all about? Because it's diluted. It has all kinds of these difficult emotions that cloud our seeing what our mind is. So meditation is all about familiarity. It's becoming familiar with our minds. So how do we develop familiarity? Habit. If I do something over and over again, I start becoming familiar. So familiarity requires a certain habitual looking at. Dharma, what we teach here, is all about new habits. New habits of not harming ourselves, not harming others, and being helpful to other people. We want to develop those habits. This familiarity begins on the cushion, for sure. But to be effective, to make things better for us and others, it must penetrate our lives from not just on the cushion, but off the cushion. We have to start becoming familiar with what our mind's doing, not only on the cushion, but off the cushion. Why? Because of habit. Our habits are oftentimes harmful to ourselves and to others. And so off the cushion, it's actually more important off the cushion, because that's where you're going to meet with other people. You begin on the cushion. That's where you start learning this habit of looking at your mind, what's going on. But off the cushion, it's just as important. And we have a very difficult job. If we were monastics, we could give up some of the concerns and worries that we have as ordinary folk. Certainly, if we were yogis, we'd give it all up. We wouldn't care. We wouldn't care. We wouldn't have a worry in the world. We wouldn't care where our next meal came from. At least monastics know that their next meal, where it's coming from. But you and I, have to deal with the world and all the things involved. Raising kids, taking care of grandkids, taking care of partners, taking care of husbands and wives, work, all that. Yogis and monastics don't have to do that. So in a way, we're even more blessed, because not only do we have to encounter the world and all the difficulties there, we also have to deal with our mind and making it a vehicle for good in the world. So we're sort of privileged in that respect. This is me speaking. I think we're more privileged than any monk or any yogi, because this is what we do. It's harder, but this is what we do. So I'm really inviting you, in order to make progress in the coming year, what I'm inviting you to do is start to look at your mind, not only on the cushion, but off the cushion. If in no other way than periodically stopping and saying, where's my mind? We get so involved in stuff, we sort of become mindless. But once in a while, in the coming year, take a little time. See where you might be surprised. I certainly want to be virtuous. I want to be kind and loving, but frankly, there are times I'm not. And I need to look at that if I want to be habitually helpful to people in this world. So that's the first thing I think we're being invited to do. Practice meditation, but also being mindful off the cushion. And, there's some people that make progress right off the bat. They come into the center and you just see them going really full force. Then there are people that sort of make some progress and then more, sort of up and down. And there are some people that go for a long, long time in their practice, and they see no progress, no experience, nothing. They just go, and then all of a sudden, because of their persistence and effort, then most people are not the first type. Most of us don't take off right off the bat in practice. Most of us, and I consider myself in that mix, of being sometimes up and then down, up. It's that way. And again, there are a few people that just go, you don't see any progress, but eventually do. All of them require persistence and patience. I guarantee you, based upon what my teachers have told me and what I've seen in my own experience, that if you persist, and if you're patient, and if you continue to work on your practice, you will progress. Now, how much depends on a lot of things. Your karma, it depends upon your persistence and your discipline. All those things are important. But I guarantee you, if a year from now, if you continue to persist in your practice, you will make progress. Then there is another step in this spiritual journey. At some point in this Tibetan Buddhist journey, the center's teachings encourage us to enter this spiritual journey of a bodhisattva. A bodhisattva is basically the person who takes the vow to benefit others and to seek enlightenment for no other reason than to benefit other beings. So that's a part of this journey too. And so we generate what is called the enlightened attitude, or bodhicitta. As Khenpo Karthar Rinpoche says, we have the spacious and courageous aspiration to work for the benefit of others. All these volunteers at this center work on the basis of bodhicitta for the benefit of others. They're not getting paid for it. They don't get much recognition for it. But their attitude is one of, may this benefit others. Certainly, we want to help others in a material way, making sure people, we do some things to help the homeless and so forth. But ultimately, we want all sentient beings to attain a pervading wisdom and enlightenment. That's what we really want if we take the vow of a bodhisattva. We could say a lot more about bodhicitta, and we have during the year, but let that suffice. It's been taught, this whole idea of bodhicitta has been taught many times. So in the coming year, if we learn about the bodhisattva vow and we take that vow and we take it to heart, we transform the very purpose of our lives. And we'll make further spiritual progress. Up until now, you and I have seen ourselves as ordinary, often selfish, and neurotic. I speak for myself. I don't know. But as Khenpo Karthar Rinpoche once said, if we generate this bodhicitta, this desire to help other beings, and really take it to heart, it will transform us. It's like bringing a light into a dark corner. So if we generate this enlightened mind, we'll make progress, and we can proudly call ourselves bodhisattvas. So today, at the near end of 2024, I've talked about the achievements and progress of the center, and we are being invited to take part in the spiritual journey that inspires all the activities of this center. This journey requires a meditative attitude and a heart and mind that wishes to help all beings. The teachers here at the center can only teach Dharma. They can't make you Dharma practitioners. Only you can do that. The Buddha said a similar thing. He said, I can't make you enlightened. Only you can do that. All I can do is teach. So it's going to be up to you in the coming year as to whether you make progress or not. So in the coming year, my prayer is that the center continue to effectively bring Dharma to whomever comes through those doors. And my hope is that everybody is able to hear, contemplate, and meditate on what those teachings are. And my hope is that 1 year from now, you and I can honestly say, because of our practice, our lives have been transformed. And by transforming our own lives, we transform the world, at least the world around us. So we have a few minutes, and so I'm inviting you, if you have any questions or thoughts about the center or thoughts about what you would like to see come to the center or your progress during the year, I will open it up to any kind of conversation you would like to have. And there are microphones here for anybody.
Thank you, Lama Tom. And thank all you guys for letting me talk.
You have to bring,
Thank you, Lama Tom. And thank you guys for letting me talk. Two things. First one, please, very briefly. Thinking about the new shrine with the very tall new additions. Are they going to fit where the current shrine is, or are they going to have to come out?
There'll be a new shrine built.
But over here, out of the...
I'm not sure exactly. I am positive, however, it will all fit. And they're doing all the measurements.
I'm relieved.
It'll be beautiful. This is beautiful. I mean, this is gorgeous. Jolene does a wonderful job keeping this shrine beautiful, but yeah, it's going to be even more beautiful.
Second thing is, I have a small mind that doesn't remember much, so I really was surprised at how much the center has been doing. Thank you for that reminder. Going along with that, could you tell me the 2 or 3 things that I might be able to remember, which basically summarizes everything? For example, maybe it's practice, which is observing and taming the mind, and compassion. Am I missing anything?
I think that's a good summary. Again, if we want to transform our minds, we have to train them. And always a part of that training is a compassionate, loving mind. Yeah, that goes together. Thank you.
Good morning. Can you hear me? Good morning. I just wanted to say I kind of ended up here maybe about 6 months ago, and I'm just grateful for the center and all the volunteers and sharing the Dharma, and I feel very fortunate to live here where this is available. I came to because I wanted to practice more in community, and I found way more than I expected. And just, I'm grateful for the teachings and for everyone who contributes in all the many ways. So, that's it.
So what's your name again?
Sandy.
Sandy, thank you.
Thanks.
I'm glad you're here.
Thank you, Lama Tom, not only for this, but you're certainly one of the very active volunteers here also. Thanks. So you spoke about the aspiration to sort of change the world through our Dharma activities. And I think when I think about all that we've accomplished here, and as you mentioned a couple of times in your talk, all driven by volunteers with some kind of bodhicitta aspiration. It's pretty amazing. So it's an example of how you change the world, by digging in and working together. And we've got this. I mean, we've got this. I likewise very grateful for this place. So I wanted to put a plug in for the fact that at least as far as I know, January 19th, which is a Sunday, and after the Dharma talk and all that, there is going to be a volunteer fair. So if anybody's interested in potentially volunteering, that would be a good time to show up, because people who are already volunteering in their various capacities, and there's, gosh, a lot of capacities, will be here to talk a little bit about what they do. And if you want to sign on as a volunteer, anybody, then that's a chance to do that. So, and as someone who's volunteered a lot, I tell you, it's a good deal. It's a good deal. You get a lot for what you put in. So just wanted to say that. A shout out, as they say.
Okay.
So thanks.
Thank you, Paul. Good morning.
Good morning, Lama Tom. Thank you.
Thank you.
I was reflecting on some of what you said earlier, and I guess I never really quite internalized it the way that you expressed it, was that the idea of practicing your Buddhism in a world that is actively working against you, it would seem, where there's a lot of talk of mindfulness, but everything's designed to distract you or kind of consume you in one way or another. It's that phrase, where the rubber meets the road sort of thing, where you think about the application of your practice is a very tangible, real, functional thing.
Yes.
So that was one observation. It's really two observations that I have. The second is about patience.
The what?
Patience.
Okay.
And I did not, I struggle with patience. I guess we all do, maybe. But I ran into it in the middle of a week where I was dreadfully unhappy about where I happened to be stationed in terms of where I was working. And this patience thing kind of popped up. And it kind of, well, the patience quote was, "With patience, all things are possible." Which seemed silly on the one hand. On the other hand, I couldn't remove myself from here, but I could change the way I thought about and felt about my circumstance. I have control over that. And then I ran into it again today. So there may be something to that. But those were my two observations. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, the ideal here is not for us, is not to be some isolated individual on the mountaintop staring out into space. We've got the real world to deal with, as you say, where the rubber meets the road. Our ideal is to bring that love and that compassion, that patience into the world, our world. And that's important to recognize that it's all about our mind, isn't it? It's not necessarily, we can't always change the circumstances at work or whatnot. So rather than thinking I can change that sometimes, it's more like I've got to work with my mind in patience. Yeah, thank you. Anybody else? Very good. So we're going to say a dedication prayer, but there's one I heard or I found that I really like. And before we say the one in the Red Book, I'd like to say the one that I found a couple of days ago. It's often said at Kaju Munlams, at prayer services, and here it is. May all the results of my virtuous actions, such as meditation, not ripen alone on me. May I and all beings throughout space be quickly liberated from the ocean of suffering, the three realms of samsara, and realize the Dharmakaya, the truth. So let's read the dedication in the book, and it's on page 30, I think. Everybody there? And we'll read this in English also. Through this virtue, may all beings gather the accumulation of merit and awareness. May they attain the two supreme kayas arising from merit and awareness. May precious bodhicitta arise within those where it has not arisen. Where it has arisen, may it not decline, but ever grow and flourish. By this merit, may all attain omniscience. May it defeat the enemy, wrongdoing. From the stormy waves of birth, old age, sickness, and death, from the ocean of samsara, may I free all beings. The courageous Manjushri, who knows everything as it is, Samantabhadra, who also knows in the same way, and all the bodhisattvas, may I follow in their path. I completely dedicate all this virtue. So we'll go on to the next page. Through the blessing of the Buddha's attainment of the three bodies, through the blessing of the unchanging truth of the Dharma, and through the blessing of the unwavering aspiration of the Sangha, may this dedication prayer be accomplished. May the glorious Lamas live long. May happiness and well-being arise for all sentient beings present throughout space. May I and all beings without exception, having gathered the two accumulations and purified the two obscurations, be swiftly established in the state of Buddhahood. Why don't we, they often tell us, don't just jump up like our hair is on fire and run out the door. So let's just take a moment, again, to relax, not necessarily to meditate, just to relax before we go. So thank you all. Merry Christmas and Happy New Year to all of you. Thank you.